Welcome to the show, Gearheads. We just got to enjoy a fantastic Formula One race. The Austrian Grand Prix delivered this year. What a brilliant race. Lando Norris takes the win, battled with his teammate for the entire race, and we're going to break it all down for you. This is Jon Massengale, joined by Bob Varsha, Jonathan Green, and Chris Medland over in Spielberg. And you know what, Bob? I'm going to start with you. I just thought this was a fantastic race. I think maybe my favorite of the season.
Well, it was certainly enhanced for me by the fact that I did pick the podium.
Yeah, you did.
From that, I think a lot of people kind of denigrate this track because it's short and because it has only 10 corners and it's got 3 DRS areas. So, you can almost predict that it's going to be a scramble. We all thought it was going to be cars flying off the track in every direction after the previous days of this weekend. But I agree with you. I thought it was a fantastic race. There was a lot of back and forth racing. Yes, the McLarens drove off into a race of their own and picked up their 4th 1-2 finish of the year. They are just a juggernaut this year. But the two teammates were ready to mix it up. And I think that's what Lando Norris was referring to on his radio when the team was congratulating him. And he said, yeah, it was a great race-ish. I think he was a little bit PO'd that his teammate pressed him so hard. But as you may have heard Andrea Stella say, they organized it well. When they thought the drivers were kind of stepping over the line, they brought them back, and they got, what great teams get, a 1-2 finish.
Yeah, and Chris Medland, I'm going to come to you, buddy. I want to see if you're as excited about this race as I am, because I thought it was fantastic, and I think it's absolutely worthy that the Austrian Grand Prix has been given a 100-year extension.
Well, yeah, it does create good races, doesn't it, when you get cars close together? And certainly that first stint I thought was really good. It was a bit of a shame that sort of slow stop, the first one for Oscar, dropped him so far back he couldn't quite get into the mix again, as in to attack. It felt like it was bubbling away, like it would get close, and never quite did in the very close, very final laps. But no, it was good that this track just always does deliver in that sense, that you can keep cars tight together. I want to talk to a couple of drivers actually who had strong results in 6th and 7th with Liam Lawson and Fernando Alonso, because they made that one-stop work and they were running kind of in tandem, close with each other the whole way through the race. And I wonder again if that was because of the track layout here, that they had their own little private battle, but that the fact that they were on the same strategy helped them. So, yeah, there's a lot of different aspects to it, but it was a good one. And I think, let's be honest, from the title picture point of view, it needed a Norris win to take points off out of Piastri when you've got Max out of the race at turn 3.
Hey, Johnny Green, coming to you now, buddy. I need some love. This race was great for me, and what about all the battles up and down? Alonso and Bortoleto at the end there, the tutor battling his manager. I mean, that was just part of what we saw today.
Yeah, that was kind of cute, wasn't it? And I would have been very interested if Bortoleto had another 10 laps to have a go, because that Alonso would have taken him on. I've got 3 takeaways. One, a massive weekend. I agree with Chris, for Lando Norris after Canada. He really needed that, and he covered it. He covered himself with glory the whole weekend, and he really needed that bounce back for sure. And a massive weekend for Lawson, who really needed a weekend like that, his best career finish. But the real overall thing is, man, at a short circuit where things are so tight, you saw it in qualifying, nobody can get near McLaren. I mean, nobody. I mean, when you look at how far Ferrari are, or Hamilton is specifically, it doesn't bode well for Ferrari for the rest of the season. But you can pretty much say that we do have now, no question about it, a two-way battle for the overall title.
Yeah, and what about this Ferrari battle? It lasted all race long. I mean, we saw these guys within 5 seconds for virtually the entire race, maybe. And I'd like to see the average gap for this entire race. But sorry, Bob, I didn't mean to step on you.
Well, it's just following up on what Johnny Green had to say. Leclerc in 3rd place was 17 seconds off the lead. I mean, it was a great finish for Ferrari. If you can't win the race, you take what the race will give you. They got the 3 and 4 place finish, but that's going to be completely tempered by the fact that they got beaten so badly. And I wonder what Lewis Hamilton is thinking right now, because I think he felt he had a shot at that podium when they wanted to pit him. And he said, why am I pitting? The tires are fine. I think he was hoping to go farther on those tires and take a shot at his teammate, Charles Leclerc, later on. It'll be coulda, woulda, shoulda, but still 3-4 for Ferrari. I agree with John. They're great finishes for Lawson. Russell in fifth place. Mercedes won't be too crazy about that. But Alonso in seventh. Bortoleto, good on him. First championship points for the Formula 2 champion. Hülkenberg gets Haas up into the points. And it's actually at 9. Excuse me. Hülkenberg gets 2 Saubers into the points. And then Ocon gets points for Haas. And so that midfield battle just heats up. It closes up even more, especially with Alpine not scoring. And one final word, somebody keep an eye on the Williams team. They may be on suicide watch this weekend, losing Carlos Sainz with an ongoing brake issue. He never even got to start the race after the brakes caught fire. And then for some reason, Alex Albon's car had to be retired during the race. So not only no points, but no finish for the Williams team.
Well, speaking of suicide watch, Colapinto, had he continued to push Piastri off into the wall or something, he would have been on it, because that was crazy. Apparently, he did not even see Oscar Piastri and pushed him off into the grass. And guys, we all know that could have been a disaster.
Oh, yeah. Especially for a young driver trying to make a name for himself.
Yeah.
That's not the name you want.
Yeah, and don't forget, Flavio Briatore said that we'd wait till Silverstone to decide what will happen to Colapinto and Jack Doohan. I don't really see that Colapinto's doing enough, although everything we've heard this weekend is that he's staying in the car.
Yeah.
I think there's a bit of limbo there, to be honest, Alpine, because Luca De Meo did leave, didn't he, as Renault chairman? A couple of weeks ago. One of you guys flagged it up as breaking news at the end of a race. And that means that until there's a new chairman in place, then no one has a clear idea of what they want to do with the team, and therefore that you're kind of waiting. I'm stood waiting for, speaking of waiting, I'm stood waiting for Jérôme D'Ambrosio here in the pit lane outside the Ferrari garage, and there's a sign being held up on the pit straight, and it's got the Ferrari logo, and I was like, okay, that's cute. It says, "Dear Ferrari strategy team, we believe in you," kind of. So even the Ferrari fans, they're trolling their own team, which just seems harsh. Right outside the garage.
That's hilarious.
We believe in you.
But that just feeds into what you were saying, actually, about the Hamilton discussions. We'll get onto that. But I think Alpine, sorry to go back to them, are just in a bit of a holding pattern, just from the feelings I get from what might happen around potentially Jack Doohan as well. I think if there'd been more certainty, then there might have been a clearer structure to what they were going to do with that second seat. But the noises at the team have been that, Flavio does not shy away from decisions. And that if he doesn't think Franco's doing a good enough job, then he will look at someone else again with eyes on 2026, because they could be very competitive in 2026. And they've obviously got Paul Aaron as their third driver, and they're allowed to make 3 changes, we think, use 3 different drivers during a season by regulation. But they could go back to Jack as well.
Yeah. What do you think, Johnny Green?
Yeah, I mean, I still feel for Jack, because a bit like Lawson, I just don't think he's been given a proper chance. It's classic Formula One, and as Chris says, Flavio's not going to be shy in coming forward, and we'll see. But I've just not been impressed with Colapinto's return, that's for sure.
Yeah, well, I hope you get D'Ambrosio, Chris, because he's got to be happy with a 4-5 finish today. Oh, wait, excuse me, a 3-4 finish. 3-4 finish for Ferrari. So gotta love that. On the podium, as Bob predicted, I predicted Hamilton on the podium. I was just maybe a little wishful thinking there, just to spice things up a little bit in that team battle. But what about George Russell's finish? I mean, somebody said a minute ago, Mercedes might not be happy with that, but all things considered, the weekend, the heat and everything, I think you got to actually be pretty happy with the 5.
Yeah, they've been talking all weekend how about if it gets hot, we're in trouble, and they were. It didn't help that Kimi Antonelli hooked up with the 4-time world champion right there on lap one. But even George Russell running clean air, dirty air, whatever it was, he just could not make an impact.
Jonathan Green, I'm coming to you.
Wasn't he? That was the thing.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, good point. I was just going to come to Jonathan Green on Liam Lawson finishing P6. Hey, Johnny, I was thinking about something. This is where Max might have been able to get to had he stayed in the race, or maybe a position better.
Yeah, it would have had a different dimension if had he been there for sure. I'm pleased for Lawson because the monkey's off his back. He says he wasn't, under pressure, and he says he hasn't lost his confidence. But you can't go through the maelstrom that he went through and not be affected by it. I don't care who you are. He's human at the end of the day, and he really, really needed a result like that and a race where he was chasing a two-time world champion the whole weekend. The whole race. That's
what I was just about to ask you. He had to battle through Alonso. Remember the kerfluffle they got into last year. Remember they were war of words in the paddock and everything. So I was waiting for that little spicy battle as well. So I just love. There's so much to get excited about this race. Well, Chris, what's going on? Are you still hovering, lurking?
I am hovering. I'm currently next in line. Whether that plays out in the way that I hope it will, we will see. But he's currently doing local ORF, who are the Austrian broadcaster. So a big day for them. So I'm not going to annoy the local TV crew. But he had a big smile on his face, Jérôme D'Ambrosio, when he started the interview he's doing right now. I do think, as you were alluding to, that he is pretty happy with how this one has played out. And whatever's just been said to him as well has made him laugh. So, yeah, he seems to be in quite a good mood. So I'm hopeful that being in a good mood will mean that we do get him as well in a sec. If anything, I won't waffle the whole time, but I will say don't go to a break.
Okay, well, let me ask Bob a question, so that way it'll spark the interruption. Bob,
perfect. Yeah.
What do you think about Ambrosio?
Right. It's a little too sweet for my taste, thank you. But as for Jérôme D'Ambrosio, yeah. What did he have to do, really? He just slipped into the boss's shoes, took his seat on the pit wall, and basically watched, I'm sure. It'd be a great story to hear how it went for him if he had to make any snap, crucial decisions. I can't think of many, but the two Ferraris were running close together. So there was that inevitable sort of, what happens if they get on each other's gearboxes? I think the whole Hamilton not wanting to pit, but the team forcing him to, probably speaks volumes. And I'd like to know if Jérôme had any input into that decision, because it seemed to me they were executing sort of indirect team owners by making sure Hamilton was not a direct threat to Leclerc in third.
Yeah. Well,
I will try and put that to him. I'm hopeful that we'll be doing so in the next 30 seconds or so as well. But I'll admit, I'm just kind of interested, like you said, see how his day went. Probably his circumstances wouldn't have been ideal. As I say, we're not prying on the personal reasons that meant that Fred Vasseur wasn't here for the race today and had to go home. But to wake up and be told, hey, you're in charge of Ferrari today when they go racing, and that team finishes on the podium, must be pretty cool in many ways. So, I just want to get a gauge of his feeling in that sense.
Great pit stops again for Ferrari today. I saw a 2-2.
Oh, yeah.
Best of the day was Piastri, but Ferrari has been continuing to have good pit stops all year long. A 2-2 from Hamilton, a 2-2 for Leclerc.
And Sauber had some terrific. What was it, Sauber?
Bortoleto had a 2-2. No, it was 2 flat was Norris.
Yeah.
I mean, excuse me, was Piastri.
Oh, okay, yeah.
But yeah, they had a 2-2. You know what? I noticed the entire field was consistent on them. Ferrari's been leading that charge all year, but the entire field had great pit stops today.
Yeah, I remember that moment with the Saubers, all kind of fist bumping, weren't they, and high fiving.
Yeah,
it was key for them because they were obviously in that fight for more points.
I wrote that down as a 2-2. Did you see a faster than that, Chris, or you think that's what it was?
I think 2-2 was the quickest. Yeah. Good filling, everybody. Our timing is great. I'm just Jerome's getting a photo with someone who's managed to get themselves in, and then I'm allowed to get hold of him. Jérôme D'Ambrosio, the deputy team principal at Ferrari, but you were acting team principal today. You are in charge of the team in red that has just finished on the podium and fourth with Lewis Hamilton as well. How was, in that sense, ignoring the race itself, but how was your day?
I don't. Well, obviously, stepping in the shoes of Fred for today. In that sense, yes, I was in charge of the team, but the reality, I think, is that we have a lot of good guys, a lot of great guys. They know what they do. They've been doing it for a long time, and so it didn't really change anything in the process. And then in the role as Fred's deputy, I'm aligned with Fred on everything. Whether it's at the factory, whether it's at the track. And so from that perspective, it was pretty straightforward.
Were there any big calls you had to make today, or are you just more on a kind of watching role?
No, I think in the end, the team was operating really well. The race was pretty straightforward from our perspective. And so it was nothing out of the norm in terms of operations and the inputs I would have had directly with Fred or today without Fred.
Well, on that front, though, you brought an upgrade to this race, and the car looked stronger in qualifying compared to most rivals. Same again today, comfortably the second quickest team. Obviously, a bit of a gap to McLaren still, but were you satisfied with the performance?
Yeah, I think we were definitely satisfied with performance today in terms of execution and maximizing what we had out of the package. Having said that, the gap from McLaren is clear, and on average in the season, I think it's important to look at the average because it seems to be like there's quite big swings from one race weekend to the other between teams. And I think the best recent example of that is Mercedes dominating Canada and not here. I think we need to take it with a pinch of salt in terms of absolute performance in one weekend relative to your competitors. And it's more important to look at trends. And so I think let's see what happens in Silverstone. What matters to us is that we brought the package. It did what it was supposed to do. It was a step forward. And now we're just going to focus on trying to just put it together again in Silverstone.
Yeah, it looked like a clean, strong race from everyone. Like you say, executed well. Strategy looked clear. I don't know if you saw the sign that's now disappeared, but there was a Ferrari fan saying that they believe in the strategy team, sort of, because sometimes it can be up and down. Lewis Hamilton was questioning it at one point, so he didn't want to make a pit stop. What was the kind of conversation that went on beyond what we heard on the radio?
I mean, obviously, I think from what we did as a team was to maximize the potential of race time. So making sure that we optimize that race time with both drivers. We were clearly in between, as I said, McLaren were 17, 18 seconds up the road. George was behind us from plus or minus. I think that I don't have it on the top of my head now, but big margin as well.
About half a minute, yeah.
Because there was no incentive in trying to offset or anything. It was important to just keep it clean, do the optimal race time and just execute. And that's what we chose to do.
Okay, well then, feeling good for Silverstone next weekend?
We'll see. We'll work hard now in the coming 3 days and focus for Silverstone will definitely to optimize that weekend again. I think that there's a lot of performance in that.
Okay, well done today. Thank you, Jérôme.
Thank you.
Brilliant, Chris. Thank you. And the cherry on top for Ferrari is they passed Mercedes in the Constructors' Championship, and they lead them 210 to 209. All right, we're going to take a break.
By 1 point.
Yeah, by 1 point. We're going to take a break, and when we come back, we have a special guest on the line. You're listening to Speed City F1 back after these messages. All right, leave it to Andy P. Andy, I've been saying the whole show, I thought it was a great race. I was super excited and just didn't get the love from any of my co-commentators. But Andy P jumps in and says, I thought my heart was going to stop. Where'd it go? Yeah, he said, I know he's a giant McLaren fan. So he said, forgive me while I look for my heart because I think it was on my feet for a couple of moments there. Yeah, a couple of moments from not just the grass issue that I talked about with Colapinto, but I mean, how many times did those guys almost come together? Oscar locking it up there on that lunge.
Yeah.
I mean, it was crazy.
Hey, you want a fun fact, John?
Yep.
Jérôme D'Ambrosia, first driver ever to take on the circuit of the Americas in a Formula One car before Mario Andretti.
No way. Get out of here.
Oh, on the opening weekend.
Yep.
Was he really?
No, he brought the Lotus. If you remember when we cut the ribbon,
Yeah.
we had Mario's Lotus and we had an F1 Lotus there as well in black and gold, and Jérôme drove that and was the driver that year.
I'll be darned. Bob's shaking his head. He remembers that.
2013.
Yeah, I do. I remember being there with you all. Further to the Ferrari story and the step apparently that new underfloor made for them, they'll have a new rear suspension on the car for Silverstone, I'm told, which will finish the package that they hoped would solve the problem they were having with the rear rake. Now, the car would only work close to the ground. That's when they got disqualified in China for too much plank wear. But now they've redone the underfloor and the rear suspension to work together to allow them to run the car lower without that kind of plank wear. So they could be interesting to watch at Silverstone, given how fast it is.
Yeah, we don't know about
Here we go.
the,
Here we go.
record yet.
Hello to everyone, this is Gunther Steiner, this is Speed City.
Welcome back to the fastest hour in radio, Speed City.
Thank you, Mr. Gunther Steiner, star of Netflix, Formula One team principal extraordinaire, and now Hollywood movie star. Thank you, Gunther. All right. Hey, Jonathan Green, we have a guest on the line, and I want you to introduce this young man.
Yes, he's a young man from Florida, and his name is Nikita Johnson. We've had him on the show before. He went down to New Zealand. He's having a very, very busy schedule. I think he's only just turned 17. We'll check it out and see what his actual age is, but he's still very young. But he's been doing GB3 in the UK and Europe because that's where it goes, and he's already had a win there. He's also doing the road to Indy. But today he got the real opportunity of doing his first ever FIA F3 weekend, replacing Nicolas Lacorte, who, of course, was banned for penalty points used. So jumps in at Dams and does a rather good job. Didn't set the world on fire, but he finished both races and did a good job. Nikita Johnson, welcome to Speed City yet again.
Hey, how's it going?
Good. How was your weekend?
Yes, it was pretty interesting. I mean, to step in the car that never driven before, and all these drivers have had a season or two, and they've had half the season, of course, racing in the new car. So it was very interesting. It was a little bit of an uphill battle with just getting used to all the procedures with the car and the series, but I mean, it was an amazing weekend.
Nikita,
I was going to say, how much of a big step up was it?
Pretty massive. I mean, these cars on qualifying are about 8 to 10 seconds faster, I believe, on one lap pace, and then throughout the race is 5 to 6 seconds. So they have a lot more cornering speed, a lot more top speed, just all around more grip. And it's the same when you get to F2, you get all around more grip. So it was a pretty huge step for anyone that's going in and for me this weekend.
well, Nikita, this is John, and I am really excited to have another American working his way through the ladder over there in Europe. And I just, I want to say, how did you get here? How did you? What's your path before now?
Well, so I raced karts in the U.S. from when I was 5 until 8, 9. And then I went over to Italy and raced Mini 60 and WSK for about 2 years for 3 different factory teams, Paralin, Tony Kart, Baby Race, and then Energy. So I was actually teammates with Kimi Antonelli, who's now in F1, Gabriel Mini, who's in F2 now, and a few others like Martini Stenshorn in F3. So did that, came back to the States, ran Legends cars for 2-3 years on dirt oval, asphalt oval, and road course. Then moved up in the USF Juniors back in the States, part of the USF Pro Championships. Did that, came third. Did USF 2000, was vice champion, and then did USF Pro 2000 and was vice champion last year while doing half season in GB3. And then this year I was planning to do a full season of GB3, and then I got the call to step up in FIF3 and go replace Lacourte. So that's been my career so far in a very short few words.
That's a lot of
meteoric.
experience in a few short words. Congratulations. This is Bob, by the way. Say hi to your dad for me. You use one Pirelli tire in F3. Is that correct?
So we have 3 Pirelli tires over the weekend, but per race we do 1. So it's we don't do any pit stops, but we have 3 during the weekend with 1 carryover for practice. So you go and practice with a really old tire, and then in qualifying you usually do 2 sets, maybe even a third. But the gap difference is like a second to a second and a half sometimes, so it's very drastic. And then once you go in the races, you can either save that new tire from qualifying and use it in the race, or use your used sets. But we only get
But
two
they're all
push
the
on them
same
anyways
spec
in
tire,
qualifying.
right? Mm-hmm.
Yes, correct. They're all
Yeah, so you
we
don't have
soft,
to.
medium, or hard, and the series picks them for the weekend.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Nikita, you're there in Austria at the Red Bull Ring with the Formula One guys. Did you get a chance to watch any of today's Formula One race?
Just a little bit. I saw the start with Carlos's brakes catching on fire, and then we were in the airport. So I saw a little bit here and there, but McLaren looked like the team to beat, and they're just super fast around here. Really good straight line.
Yep.
What are you rushing off to? What's your schedule call for next?
Say, Nick, go ahead, Bob.
Yeah, just where are you headed next?
So I'm flying into London tonight, and then I wake up like at 6 tomorrow, and I go drive an hour and a half to the high-tech HQ, and I go do sim all morning tomorrow morning and in the afternoon. So it's a pretty tight turnaround to, race on the Sunday and then go straight back on Monday and start doing sim again for prep. So that's where I'm going next.
Well, when you say prep, so what is next race-wise? Have you got any other opportunities in FIA F3? Obviously, Le Court will come back, but do you think you've done enough to show yourself?
Yes, I think so. And we'll find out a little bit later in the week if there's a seat available at the Silverstone race. But as of right now, I'm going to GB3 in Budapest. So I'll just do all the Budapest prep with high tech, all the sim work, all the review from last year's races and data. So, usually we go sim in the morning, then take a little break, go look at some data video, do sim again, go to lunch, and just kind of repeat it. So we always do one or the other. So it's not just the whole morning for 4 hours we're on the sim, and then, you get really fatigued. So we always try to.
Well, Nikita, hey.
Yeah, I felt.
Nikita,
go ahead, John.
I was just going to say we're going to let him go. We've got Chris is sending in some interviews, but Nikita, we always want to get these young Americans coming up through the ladder on the show. Thank you so much. Best of luck, and we're going to get you back on too soon. So thanks, Nikita Johnson. We appreciate it.
Yes, thank you so much, guys.
All right, talk to you soon.
Thanks, Nikita.
Chris Medland has sent in some interviews. He's out there gathering interviews while we were talking to Nikita. He has caught up with the man of the day, maybe the driver of the day. I'll have to go back and check, but he caught up with, that is true, confirmed, Casey says. He caught up with Bortoleto. We got that interview now. Here we go.
And I am going to get in front of someone on a scooter because, Gabriel Bortoleto, your first points in Formula One. How special was that result today?
Yeah, just super glad to finish in the points today. The team deserves it. Such an amazing result for everyone. Both cars in the points. It's great.
And it's felt like a long time coming because you've had some great performances, but not always the car to deliver. How nice is it now to have this car that can give you the chance to shine?
Well, hopefully we can have this car every single weekend. But just super glad that. Thank you. Thank you.
Welcome. What Alonso said.
He's just been interrupted by a local journalist here, sorry.
He was proud of me. Yeah, and just great to be in the points and finally have the car to fight for it. Your performances get much more seen when you have a car like this to do races like that.
Well, you've been up there in the sharp end over the last few weeks when you've had that car, but we saw that late fight with Fernando Alonso. How tense did that get, trying to gain another position in the closing laps?
Well, it was quite crazy. He defended very hard and he did an amazing job by doing that. And I gave it all, but his experience to stand up, and it was just great.
Wow, and also Silverstone next weekend, a car that can fight for points regularly. How excited are you for that one?
Well, hopefully we are in the same. In the same conditions of pace like we have been here, and super glad that we have been able to fight for points now because everyone deserves in the team.
Well, and you deserve it too. Well done, Gabriel.
Thank you.
Gabriel Bortoleto having a great. By the way, guys, I have to admit, I was sitting there, I was trying to tag him on Twitter, and realized we weren't even following Gabriel Bortoleto on Twitter as Speed City's account. I was like, hey, I can't believe that. This shows how little we've talked about him. But
yeah, he's got a lot to talk about now.
Yeah.
And I wonder if it says in his contract with Fernando Alonso, who's also his manager, that you can't pass the boss.
Yeah. Yeah. All right, Chris has got one. Wait, I guess we're going to let Casey get it ready. He just caught up with Liam Lawson. In fact, you know what? Let's go to a break because that's a good one to tease because Liam Lawson with his fantastic day, and we'll hear from him right after this. Okay, back on YouTube. Let's see what's going on.
How about that bloody career path for Nikita? That's amazing.
I know,
And
really.
that schedule. How do you do that?
And the age, I mean, he's doing FIA F3 and he's still got like 4 years buffer, if you like.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So he's driving 2 different Formula 3 cars. He's driving.
Yep.
Is he in Indy next? You said he was on the road to Indy.
No, he's he's done some Indy next.
Okay.
This year's season, yeah. But
Yeah,
I think he's focusing on Europe now because he's got.
Yeah.
Good point on YouTube, Kevin Kelly. Good to see the Ferrari updates actually worked, and maybe there's some strategy did good too. Yeah. Irvin McDaniel says Sauber double points, RB double points, Red Bulls cry. Yep. Absolutely. Man, we got a lot to talk about in this show today. TW says Lando was
thinking about that Ferrari situation. Imagine if Ferrari had somehow won this race.
Yeah.
If I were Jérôme D'Ambrosio, I don't think I'd go home.
Hey guys, just so you know,
okay.
I just had a message from his dad saying he has got a handshake deal with High Tech to do Silverstone. He just couldn't say it, which is wild. So that's really good.
Definitely.
Let's see.
They're meeting with Ollie Oaks.
Mike Bowles is still in the movie theater. That's great. Watch the movie, Mike. Get off your phone.
Oh, Jesus.
Hey, this is a question. Joe Voshabay has a good question for Chris. Joe, we'll hit Chris up with that later in the show. He's talking about tire setups. Anybody else here? All right, coming back.
Hi, this is Max Verstappen, and you're listening to Speed City.
Welcome back to the fastest hour in radio, Speed City.
Right now, with zero commitment, try Oracle Cloud Infrastructure for free. Head to oracle.com/formula. That's oracle.com/formula. All right, we're still basking in the glow of a fantastic Formula One race at the Red Bull Ring in Austria today. And Chris Medland is out there getting us interviews live, and he caught up with Liam Lawson, who had a fantastic race today. So let's hear from Chris Medland interviewing Liam Lawson.
Liam Lawson, who says he will talk to me today. P6 again, mate. How good does that feel?
It's good. It's been a very tough year, very, very tough year. So to convert today, I felt really good recently in the car, and the results haven't reflected it, but to have this today is very, very cool.
Yeah, Fernando Alonso on your tail for a lot of that. Were you feeling the pressure?
The whole race, 71 laps, I think he was within DRS, so yeah, it's never easy when it's him behind, but yeah, it's nice to get the result. I spoke to him afterwards, and he actually thought I was quicker. I thought he was quicker. So I think we were using each other a little bit, but yeah, very, very happy.
And Johnny Green back in the studio is obviously very happy with the result too, but he did say that as you've been putting a brave face on it, saying your confidence has never taken a hit, he said, I wonder it still has, because until you get the results, maybe it does. Do you think that may be true?
For sure, in the back of your mind, for me this year, I felt really confident and comfortable, but I know that the result's not there, and to have one come through is very, very cool. So yeah, it's we're all mentally strong. We all work very hard on our mindset. But no matter what, sometimes when it's a tough year like this, a result like this makes a difference. So very happy.
Congratulations,
mate. Thank you.
Gosh, it was good to hear Liam Lawson with the right tone in his voice, and I see you smiling, Jonathan.
Well, I mean, it's always tough when you start talking to a racing driver about his mental state, and I thought Chris handled that well because he knows we're discussing it. The whole world's been discussing it, and he knows because he's got such a fan following in New Zealand who are, I mean, honestly, if you go to a New Zealand website and I write for a couple, it's Lawson wall to wall. So, they're picking it away every weekend, everything he does. They say he's on too much social media and he's doing this, but that puts the monkey behind him.
Yeah, absolutely. And you could hear it in his voice that he was, confident again. And look, he said he never lost his confidence, but I saw his face, man. He may have not lost his confidence, but he looked shell-shocked there after leaving Red Bull. So it was good to see him. Good to see him. Hey, Bob, we got to talk about these Sauber cars, don't we? What a day.
Oh, heck yeah. Yeah. Update package. I mentioned in my grid on the pre-show that Hulkenberg seemed to be struggling with it a bit, but obviously it was just what Bortoleto wanted, and he put it to good use today. So, hopefully there'll be more of that. At one point in the television feed, you saw Mattia Binotto, who is his title is team principal or CEO? No, because Jonathan Wheatley's
COO.
COO.
And I believe CTO, Chief Technical Officer. I might be right. It's definitely two C-suite titles.
Yeah. Well, whatever it is, he had a very, shall we say, suppressed smile on his face. I think, that they knew that there is a light at the end of the tunnel and all those other cliches about the parting of clouds, and that, Sauber's on the uptick. And with Audi coming on board next year as a factory team, that can only be a good thing.
And the light at the end of the tunnel is the taillights of Aston Martin, because they've moved within 2 points.
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead, Greeny.
The only upgrade we didn't see was Red Bull, because Yuki didn't get an upgrade, and Max did, but obviously didn't get a chance to show what it could do in both qualifying and in the race itself.
Yeah, I will admit that's someone I wanted to talk to, and I'm not sure I'm going to get to, is Christian Horner. Not always been that open, has he, when it's been tough. And he did an early media session, I noticed, much earlier than normal, which tends to suggest, as I stick my head in weirdly through the window of the Red Bull motorhome, where Liam Lawson's just got back in, actually, and is getting congratulated by some guests. I don't think Christian is going to be hanging around, given the timing that he did that session. So it was 40 minutes ago now he wanted to do it. I think he maybe ran slightly late, but that suggested someone who was going to just cut and run. That said, given the way the race was panning out, especially with Yuki, as I just see Laurent Mekies giving a huge hug to Liam Lawson. So, I think the team are very proud of him on that front. That said, once Yuki was kind of out of the frame for any points, and Max was obviously out of the race, Red Bull probably could start making travel arrangements, couldn't they?
Yeah, definitely. And tangential story. Congratulations to Kimi Antonelli, who put his hand up right away and said that was my fault. I got caught out watching the car in front of me and not where the 4-time world champion was coming from.
No, we really haven't talked about that hardly. You touched on it, but the fact that Antonelli, it was an interesting crash, because when Antonelli went into that, I saw the replay. I thought, well, he's not even near Max, and he just somehow kind of snaked through the other cars and hit Max and took him out. And did you see? That's
probably what's going to get him a penalty, because you saw on the replays, he ducked out from behind. I think it was one of the Racing Bulls, and just came up to that turn at almost unabated speed, which we've seen over the years at Austria. Somehow, it's an uphill right-hander. You don't have to brake quite as hard, as I think Chris explained earlier, because it's so steep. The car will, try to slow itself down just because of gravity. It's caught out more than one driver, and I think that was what Antonelli thought he was going to get when he ducked out behind and dove at the apex. And unfortunately, several cars, including Max Verstappen, were braking.
Yeah, and Jonathan, did you see the conversation between Max Verstappen and Kimi Antonelli afterwards? I was watching that closely just to see how Max's temperament looked, but he looked like he was, big brotherish.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly what I was thinking. I was thinking, because Hadjar's good mates with him, because that's his idol, and so I saw them chatting in the press conference, and that reminded me of the same conversation. It was almost like hey, I know we're the same age, almost the same age, but I'm the daddy here, sort of thing, and hey, shit happens, and it was kind of like it was one of those sort of, hey, it's okay.
Yeah.
Chris, what were you going to say? I'm sorry, we interrupted you.
It was actually, I've seen Kimi's explanation for this one, and he said it was that he locked the rear tyres when he hit the brakes. So behind the other two cars, it wasn't that he felt he hit them too late or he wasn't trying to overtake anyone. He said he was actually trying to be careful. I think he had his brake bias wrong, and he locked the rear tyres. So he said in doing that, he was, the rear was stepping out, but he wasn't going to get the car stopped. So that's what caused him to dive out the way of the two cars in front. So once he cleared them, it was to stop running into the back of them. But even then, in doing that, he'd lifted off the brake to have control of the car to turn it. So then he's going in too hot. Then he gets back on them. But again, he's just going way too hot. And it was Max that was the unfortunate party. But yeah, he kind of said it was, if he hadn't have avoided the two cars in front, he'd have wiped out both Lawson. And I think at the time, it would have been Gasly maybe up there. He started quite high.
Maybe. And he was on an unfamiliar line, too. He was kind of coming up the right side of the track, where the ideal place to be was over on the left side to make the corner entry. So, combination of factors for Kimi.
We touched on it, but Yuki Tsunoda, 10-second time penalty because he hit Colapinto and spun him, and we saw another spin and continue. I don't know how many of those we've seen this weekend, but Colapinto was able to. But yeah, that 10-second penalty was well deserved because I don't know what he was thinking there, unless y'all saw differently.
He just didn't know he was there, did he? Hang on, this is the Tsunoda one.
Yeah.
Just jumping the gun with Colapinto. Sorry. Yeah, I do think there's no complaints. It was like half-hearted, wasn't it? He never got fully alongside, but he'd kind of put the car there to try and make Colapinto get out of his way, essentially. And yeah, I think that one's fully on Yuki. You need to be in more control there to get that done cleanly. I spot Christian Horner. I don't know if I'm going to get to him, but I see him. So I'll see if I can ask him any questions. I'm going to have to run.
Because he always has those answers in the can about statistics, how well they did, and let's see what he has today.
Well, if he's got any, I don't know. He's heading off, so let me see if I get a
run. Chris,
second.
Go baby, go!
Can I do one quick one, Christian, with you as you go? I know it's not been an easy day for you, but how do you reflect on how that one played out?
Not the race we were looking for. I mean, look, they've all done it at some point. Kimi obviously had a lost control and unfortunately torpedoed Max out the race. So yeah, at your home Grand Prix, never great to go out on the third corner. And it's a shame because I think looking at the pace today, we wouldn't have raced the McLarens that were in a different stratosphere, but I think we'd have raced the Ferraris pretty hard today.
Yeah, podium maybe escaping there. And you didn't get to learn as well, the guys were saying in the studio, about the upgrade you brought here either, because you've lost that race data.
Well, it was all right for turn one.
Yeah, it performed well in dirty air.
Well, look, here we only got one turn. So, Max was actually coming back on the throttle when Kimi sort of torpedoed him, but look, it is what it is. We'll brush ourselves down and off to Silverstone next weekend.
Tough day for Yuki as well, a few incidents, but there was at times his pace looked good, others not so good. Kind of how do you reflect on where he's at the moment? Because it obviously does show how tough this car can be for generally the guy not Max Verstappen in it.
Well, look, the car's got an inherent characteristic. He had a horrible race after the clash with Colapinto and yeah, nothing went right for him. Really from qualifying, his first run in Q1 and then it was good, and then after that it never really happened from there. So we'll pick him up and keep focused on how we can help him.
All right. Well, I hope it goes better for you in Silverstone.
So do I. Thank you.
So do I.
Well, as ever honest.
Yeah.
Boy, oh boy.
Yeah. What were you saying, Chris?
Fallen.
Yeah, and it's also interesting how finally we're getting him to discuss the inherent problem of the car.
Yeah, that's true. That he's aware of it, but at the same time, I think there's a number of drivers they've gone through that have looked hurt by that. I'll tell you what, something funny is just unfolding. Lando Norris is just walking past me now doing a TV interview. Just left the broadcast pen that's at one end of the paddock. He's got to walk all the way to the middle of the paddock, and then he's got to go under a tunnel and through into another building to go do the main press conference. I asked about 5 minutes ago if there was any chance to do that sort of interview with Oscar Piastri walking to the press conference. And I got sent a photo back from his press officer of him sat on his own, just waiting in the press conference room. But he was done and on time.
Already there.
Yeah, that was at least 5 minutes ago. So he's going to be waiting nearly 10 minutes for his teammate to show up. Sorry, I just thought it was quite funny to watch Lando, obviously, with a big smile on
Well,
his
he's
face.
seen the back of him for the last 2 hours, so I'm sure he's probably quite happy to not see him again.
Yeah, for a little bit, yeah. But the bit I was going to say, John, was about Christian there, that he was walking from the middle of the paddock just into the Red Bull kind of engineering trucks. So I think he was going in for a debrief. If not, he was going into his office that's in there. And he was on his own. He wasn't with his press officer or anyone else like that. He could easily have just blanked me or just been like, no, I don't want to talk after today. He had his phone out as well that he could have used as an excuse. But he did not. He said, yep, go ahead, let's do it. And stood there before going into engineering to answer those questions. So I gave him some stick after Barcelona, didn't I? When Max and George came together, however you want to describe it, and they disappeared and they weren't available to talk. And I felt like they hid away on a tough day when they really needed to front up. So at least he gave us his time there.
Hey, Chris, I thought of a question you could have asked Christian Horner, and I saw it on Twitter. I don't know I don't know who it was, but they said, does this DNF help Verstappen activate his clause to leave Red Bull?
I don't think it hurts it because I think there was talk of it being top 2, which I thought it was top 3. But if it's top 2, then he was already going to have the opportunity to use that. I also think there's part of him that if he really wants to go, he'll tell the team he really wants to go, and they'll find a way. Let's be honest, aside from the fact that he owns a jet and flies around the world in his own jet, which he may well still be paying off, he's not really a lavish guy from what you see. His big spend seems to be driving racing cars. And I imagine a lot of people will give him those for free to drive because it's Max Verstappen driving it. So I don't think he would actually be that bothered. And this is me projecting Max's opinion, so I could be wrong, but I just don't think he'd be that bothered if he was told, look, all right, we'll let you go, but that's, there's no payment of the rest of the year, or, you have to return X millions in sponsorship deals that we're going to lose out on, whatever it may be. I think they'd come to an agreement that he'd be happy with if he wanted to go. So I don't think he actually needs to worry about that so much. I think that's just been a good point for him to either avoid anything financially penalising or just to put the pressure on Red Bull to show, hey, we signed this deal with this in mind. This is where we should have been, and we're not there.
Yep.
Hey, Chris, just talking of what Max gets up to outside, am I right in saying that he got the lap record at the Nürburgring, Nordschleife, recently under a pseudonym?
Franz Hermann. Not sure on the lap record because I think it was, well, one, it'd be unofficial on a sort of day it was, but two, I think that was just people doing that based on anyone who had a bit of onboard footage to have a little look at something. And there was I think, former Red Bull sim racer, if I'm right in remembering who it was, who tweeted like some context saying, yeah, but he was on special tyres that everyone else doesn't get to use, and he had this and that, blah, blah, blah. And Max replied to it being like, completely rubbish, like not true at all. Don't talk about things you have no idea about. But he didn't address whether there was a lap record there or not. And also the fact that that person then had been completely misinformed with what they seemed to think they knew made me also question whether lap record was also part of it. I'm sure Max could, to be honest. He's done hundreds of thousands of laps around that place on sim racing and in reality now. But I don't think it was ever, confirmed that was the case. And I think a lot of people just got excited by almost the expectation that that's something he would do.
Yeah. Hey, we were talking about Max and potentially, leaving the Red Bull. To me, that Max doesn't have the kind of loyalty, like when Hamilton left McLaren, he'd been with them since he was, 12 years old. And I just think Max would say, yeah, thanks for the opportunity for four world championships. I'm moving on. See you later. I don't think Max would hesitate, but I'm looking at the clock, guys. We need to get a break in. You're listening to Speed City F1, and we'll be back right after these messages. All right, still hot. Hey, Chris, are you still there, buddy? I want to get a question in from Joe at Oyster Bay. He says, is there such a thing as a bad tire / tire with a Y in a set in F1 when drivers complain of seemingly inexplicable car behavior? Is a bad tire ever the culprit?
So there's been questions before that it's more that sets or like differences between sets is the issue. Now, I think if there was a singular bad tire, I think that would become pretty obvious pretty quickly. They'd be able to almost pinpoint the corner that wasn't going so well. And they'd be like, I've got an issue at the left rear or whatever. It's more when it's a set that you have to, these tires are so sensitive. And even the way you heat them, store them, the way they were transported, the way they've come out of the molds, apparently, tiny little details can have an impact. And teams have speculated before that you could have two sets of the soft tire that as a team you keep identically and you prepare identically, but you don't know what may have happened differently between them from the moment they were manufactured to the moment you got hold of them. And that can then lead to slightly different performance coming from each. And that's what they find very confusing.
There you go, Joe. There you go, YouTubers. Chris Medland would be about as good a person as any, outside of Mario Isola to answer that question.
I can also bring you some breaking news if you'd like. Or
Yes,
do you want
sir.
to hold it for when we come back from the break so we can use the
let's-
jazzy sound?
Let's tease the YouTubers to hang on for another
Yeah, there you go.
30 seconds.
That's how long you got to wait, YouTubers.
Let's see. What else? Who else? Andy P was, when Colapinto was pushing Piastri off the track, Andy P said, "What are you doing?" in all caps, was screaming at him. Yes, I was too, Andy. I was like, I could see what was happening, that he couldn't see that he was there. He just never saw him. He just kind of slowly eased over and pushed him off. Here we go.
Hi, this is Karun Chandok, and you're listening to Speed City.
Welcome back to the fastest hour in radio, Speed City.
In business, they say you can have better, cheaper, or faster, but you only get to pick two. What if you could have all three at the same time? That's exactly what Cohere, Thomson Reuters, and Specialized Bikes have since they upgraded to the next generation of the cloud, Oracle Cloud Infrastructure. OCI is the blazing fast platform for your infrastructure, database, application development, and AI needs, where you can run any workload in a high availability, consistently high performance environment and spend less than you would with other clouds. How is it faster? OCI's block storage gives you more operations per second. Cheaper? OCI costs up to 50% less for compute, 70% less for storage, and 80% less for networking. Better? In test after test, OCI customers report lower latency and higher bandwidth versus other clouds. This is the cloud built for AI and all your biggest workloads. Right now, with zero commitment, try OCI for free. Head to oracle.com/formula. That's oracle.com/formula. All right, we're just got a few minutes left in the show, and it has flown by because this race was so exciting to me. I thought it was one of the best of the season. But Chris, let's just check in with you real quick. What's going on out where you are? What do you see? What do you hear?
Well, I've come into the McLaren hospitality unit for a bit of aircon, but I was promising you some breaking news, wasn't I, in the break, for anyone who was listening?
Oh, you got the logo, yeah.
Yeah, it's ready to go. And it was because we were talking about Kimi Antonelli and the collision with Max Verstappen. Well, he's been given a 3-place grid penalty for the next race he participates in. So that's going to be Silverstone as it stands, where if it's not too hot, Mercedes could be very competitive. So he gets 2 penalty points on his license for that and 3-place grid penalty for next weekend. So costly not only to his race today, but also to the next one he takes part in.
Wow, that is a big deal. That is breaking news. I thought about that. I want there could be further repercussions after this. Johnny, you think that's appropriate?
It's kind of inevitable. I mean, you can't put the blame anywhere else. It wasn't a racing incident. He made a mistake. It's a tricky corner. It is in 2 and 4 wheels. I've seen so many incidents there. You're going uphill, you're braking, and on the first lap, it's a lottery. So he did the best of a bad thing because, as you said, if it had stayed on the outside, he could have caused more damage. So he tried to avoid damage and then tried to brake as hard as he could, but locked up. And I think yes, that's the fair assessment.
Bob Varsha, you flagged up a story about Toto Wolff warning the dangerous media like Chris Medland. The frenzy could derail Antonelli.
Yeah, he went on at some length in the team principal's press conference about how he wants the press to back off anointing Kimi Antonelli as a legend, a future world champion, all this kind of stuff, especially in racing mad Italy, where, this barely 18-year-old kid comes in, he's learning the ropes, he's got who knows what kind of future ahead of him, but the expectations and the pressure that are put upon him by everybody saying, he's going to do great things is what Toto Wolff wants to see less of. I don't know if that's based on his personal conversations with Antonelli or, if it's something else going on there. But yeah, Wolff asked everybody to just calm down about Kimi.
Chris, do you consider yourself dangerous, or is that just the Italian media?
Oh, I'm very dangerous. If I tweet something wrong, I get in a lot of trouble. But no, I do understand his point. I think at the same time, Mercedes have put him on a pedestal here where they say how good he can be, and that what a talent he is. Look at the way Toto spoke in Monza after his crash there last year. And this is the world of F1, so he's going to have to perform within it with the rough and the smooth. But I do think it was more pointed at the Italian media for one particular reason, and it was that Kimi finished his exams in Bologna, and when he walked out from doing them, he walked into a sea of cameras and microphones to kind of ask him how it had gone and the fact it was over. And can you guys imagine that finishing your high school exams, how you're feeling after that as well, and being faced by national media, or at least local media, like a scrum of them? I'd be terrified.
Yeah. I wonder if there was a sort of an oblique goal for Toto, sort of a handout to Fred Vasseur's situation at Ferrari, just everybody calm down.
Yeah.
Everybody likes Fred Vasseur. It's not like Christian Horner and Toto Wolff, but I think when it comes to Fred, I think Toto and Christian and all of the team principals realize the pressure that he's under there. And maybe it was the same kind of thing. Don't put anybody on a pedestal, because this is a really tough business.
Yeah, I followed soccer in Italy for all my life. And, when it comes to sports following in Italy, they're brutal. They want everything. They want every piece of information. They want to criticize. It's just it's one of the downsides of being Italian, but also a plus side because they're so fervent. If you're successful for them, they'll love you forever. I mean, Mansell is still loved in Italy.
Right.
Yeah.
The Lion of England.
Well, I want to talk about, first of all, this race was so great, and the momentum that the sport of Formula One has right now is just electric because the movie has just been killing it. We got Silverstone coming up next. That's going to be epic. It always is. But the movie, Chris, did you see the numbers? I think it was Deadline.com, that movie focused news source. They reported $140 million opening weekend for the movie, and which would be, if you don't know, that would be an enormous number for an opening, maybe the best ever.
And the weekend isn't over yet.
That's right, and the weekend's not over, and just stunning numbers for this movie. I mean, when you interviewed James Vowles, Chris, he said that this movie could be bigger than Drive to Survive. I kind of scoffed at that, but man, this has just enormous momentum, doesn't it?
Yeah, it certainly does. I mean, even to the extent that when we were watching the start of that race and we had Carlos Sainz stuck on the grid waiting to go, we're like, oh, he's doing a Sonny Hayes. Sorry for
That's exactly
anyone who's not seen the movie yet, but that'll make sense if you do get to see it at some stage. In reality, it meant he was actually not going to start that race and went to pit lane and retired. But yeah, it does. It shows how it's already kind of permeating into certain things that happen on track. I hope anyone who watched the movie and then maybe followed the race for the first time enjoyed it enough to come back again as well. I know it wasn't full of loads of collisions or massive controversies like a movie would be, but I think the film is close enough to accuracy to allow people to see the connection. But I just sorry to move off the movie. I was positioned myself in a really good spot. Just stood outside Mercedes. Already in his civvies, doing an interview with Austrian TV because he is Austrian as well, as we mentioned on the grid. But next to them is the Italian TV crew that we were just talking about, Italian media and pressure on Kimi Antonelli. And Kimi's just coming out of the motorhome as I speak, or coming downstairs. In fact, he's gone back into the motorhome. But the Italian TV are outside because obviously that's a big story as Mercedes today, is the fact that Antonelli had that incident and the penalty he's now got. So it shows that even on a day that really Mercedes shouldn't be much of a story other than performance wasn't great, that because of Kimi and his potential, he's always going to be. It was kind of just a good... I guess, image that shows exactly what we were talking about or illustration is the word I wanted, of what we were talking about just now.
Yeah,
he's going to need a safe space and private support from his most trusted friends and family.
Yeah, and
I think he's in good shape with Toto.
I do. I was just going to say that Toto has really been taking care of him, so I think he's in good shape, guys. We're down to just about a minute left in the show. I mentioned Silverstone. It's going to be a fantastic weekend. It's July 4th weekend here. Not for Chris and Jonathan as much, but for you and me, Bob, it's going to be a fantastic weekend.
You betcha.
And
we get to the halfway point of the season. And
that's right.
Belgium and Hungary, and then it's time for the August break, and we're going to be saying, where'd this season go?
Jonathan, I see you smiling.
Hey, guys, if you have seen the movie, when you get to Silverstone, think about how you could film in that environment at that time. Incredible. That made my movie for me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And Jonathan, quickly, get 15 seconds. Talk about your buddy. That was the featured. I mean, the crash in that movie.
Oh, well, the story, Sonny Hayes is based on Martin Donnelly, and I spent 6 weeks in New Zealand, the real Martin Donnelly, and Bob knows about the crash back in 1990 very well. It basically ended his career, and it was horrific. We thought he died, but he's still going strong, and he was a consultant on the movie.
All right, all right, Bob, we're at
that race.
We're out of time, buddies. All right, thanks everybody for tuning in. Thanks, Jonathan Green, Bob Varsha, Chris Medland, and thanks to you, to everyone listening and watching. Thank you. Talk to you next week.